Fair warning, this show contains strong language and adult themes from time to time. Sorry, Jerry can't help it.
Sick Boy Wolfgang Productions presents The Offering with Jerry Horror. A deep dive into the history of film and its filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre.
What strange creatures are...
Got up on the wrong side of the grave.
Or orange sprinkles.
Is that you?
No, it's fine. You know, we like to have tricks or treats here at WNEW, but just a couple of safety tips for you and your family. Always make sure you inspect your child's treats. There could be razor blades inside, and Johnny won't find that delicious. Also at night, don't forget to blow out the candle in the jack-o'-lantern. You don't want the house burning down because you had a Happy Hallows Eve. Most importantly though, if anyone comes to your door wearing a white blank-faced Captain Kirk mask, maybe it's time to call the police. Maybe it's time for Halloween. Boys and ghouls, friends beyond the binary, this is The Offering, and I am your host, Jerry Horror. Happy Halloween, folks! How you doing out there? Are you eating your tricks, your treats, your candy? Did you dress up like your pet? Did your pet dress up like you? Did you put the dog in a fucking Yoda costume? How did that work? What's that about? What's wrong with you? Have you called your mother lately? Does she know what you're doing to the dog? Doesn't matter. It's Halloween time, and I'm gonna let a lot of shit slide. You know what? Because that's how we roll here on The Offering. I like to have fun. Do you like to have fun? So, obviously today we're talking about the Halloween franchise. And the reality of the situation is, well, which film are we talking about? Well, it wouldn't be offering tradition if I told you all about what film we're covering today, but let's just dance around it for a few minutes, shall we? So check this out. I gotta say this, and this has been on my mind for a long time. The Halloween franchise has been cooked since Donald Pleasance passed away. I mean, let's be honest, folks. He was the wise old wizard, right? He was like the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everything, especially in the hero's journey, you always have to have that wise old character. And there's also the crazy old man. The foresayer of doom, you know, like Crazy Ralph in the Friday the 13th movies. He's like, oh, you can't go there, it's a death curse, your tires are going to pop, there's no cell phone reception. This was way before that, but I digress. The reality of the situation is that Dr. Loomis was integral to selling the whole mythos. Because here's the deal, these dopey teenagers, the sheriff, all these characters, the nurse, no. Donald Pleasance is like a wrestling manager, a professional wrestling manager, and he's selling the whole thing. He's adding to the mythology, the lore. You know, I saw the eyes, the devil's eyes. I shot him 6 times, you know, and there's all these things like he really believes that Michael Myers is pure evil. And that's some scary shit. Listen, I wouldn't buy half of the malarkey, especially in that first film, about Michael Myers without Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis. And I feel like the whole franchise has been kind of cooked without him. I mean, look, what's his face? I always forget his Malcolm McDowell. He played Dr. Loomis in the zombie movies, and he was great. They did a different thing with him. I like in the second film when he blows up and becomes this huge doctor, and he's kind of an asshole. That's a different trope. And that's what we're talking about this season. Trends and tropes. Now, of course, with this film that we're exploring today, there is a degree of tropes because it's a film within a franchise. It's the final film in a franchise. But how many times have they done that? Like Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. What a load of bullshit. When I was a little kid and I was watching on the TV and I saw the trailer, I was like, holy shit, this is it. This is it. It's the final chapter. We got to get there. I don't know. What are we going to do? Mom, get my jacket. We got to get to the movie theater. We're never going to be able to see it again. And you know what? I fell for it again. Do you want to know how I fell for it again? Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. Those bastards. I was there Opening day for a matinee, I begged my mom. I'm like, Mom, listen, I really cannot go to school because there's a new Nightmare on Elm Street film out, and it is the final one. Get me to the theater. Get me in my little fat kid shorts and some popcorn and Dr. Pepper so I can shove it in my face and see Freddy Krueger die. But guess what? They got me again. They got me with Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. And you know what the thing is? Every time with these fucking movies, you tell me it's the last one, I'm coming. I'm sold. Do you remember Final Destination? Do you remember the fourth film, The Final Destination? I was like, this is it. They're going to cap it off. 2 more movies later, and we haven't reached that, but it is what it is. Hey, did you see that last Final Destination? Fantastic. 9 out of 10. Definitely recommend it. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Rest in peace, Donald Pleasance. I get so lost talking about all this bullshit sometimes that I forget where I started. Yeah, so like I said, the franchise of Halloween has essentially been cooked since our old pal Donald Pleasance bit the big one and went up somewhere into the sky to drink Cuddy Sark. It is what it is. But the franchise doesn't function without him. And that's what happens in the later film. It is felt heavily, maybe not so much in H2O, but definitely in Resurrection, because they even add like that whole little bit in the beginning with the fake actor doing the voice. And then they do it again. They have a whole flashback sequence, which was pretty awesome in Halloween Kills, where they have a guy who just looks like Donald Pleasance. Where'd you find that fucking guy? That's what I want to know. That's some casting. Whoever did the casting on Halloween Kills, chef's kiss, baby. I can't believe it. You guys found a guy who looks like Donald Pleasance. He sounds like Donald Pleasance. But that's my point. You can have sound-alikes. You can have CGI versions like they did with those Star Wars movies. We got, Tarkin. He's a CGI ghost. It's so ghoulish. I don't like when they do that. So please, in the future, do not add a CGI dead version of Donald Pleasance. It will be greatly upsetting to me, his family, and all the men who sold him booze at the liquor store. No, I'm just kidding. I'm playing. He was a bit of a booze hound, though. Seriously. And guys, don't get into alcohol because it'll just destroy your liver. It's not good for you. Oh, wait, sorry. Back to the Halloween special. I'm sorry. Look, there are things that are just missing. And Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis was a huge trope. And the trope being the wise old man who is forewarning you. And that's kind of a thing that we need in every horror movie. There needs to be somebody, especially when you got a slasher film with a bunch of dopey teenage kids, there's got to be saying, hey, don't go by that lake. A little boy drowned. I'm not playing. Seriously, don't fuck around by that lake. And they never listen. Because that's what you do, right? You go explore the old psychiatric place. You go in, and there's always, some fat security guard. He kind of looks like me. It's me. And he's there, and he's like, oh, hey, you kids, don't go in there. There's all kinds of bullshit. And you're like, fuck you, fat man. We're going in that place, and we're going to, I don't know, listen to some records and get drunk and, I don't know, maybe have some consensual premarital sex. I don't know what fucking kids do. Is that what you do? I don't know what you do. You vape? What goes on there? Most of my audience is like millennials and older, so I have no fucking idea what Gen Z is doing. I don't even know who Gen Z is. What the fuck is a zillennial? Sorry, I digress. This is the Halloween special. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I promise. Not that we don't always have fun with the offering. We always have fun. We do something. But today's episode is very special. Mainly because we're covering a film that barely came out 3 years ago, which is fucking insane. See, now you're probably going to ask me, Jerry, why is this so crazy? And I'm going to tell you. Because usually when you make a movie, right, people who are still currently working in the industry, they're not going to talk shit because they want to keep working in the industry. Even on a recent episode, the one for Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I talked to somebody who decided to remain anonymous, and I totally respect that, because he or she is working in the film industry, and they don't want to shit talk people and potentially not get a job because of some dumb shit they said to a dumb podcaster. You see what I'm saying? So usually I don't talk about movies this new, but in this case, there's a wealth of information and knowledge, and we are going to go all through it, because this is the deepest dive, the deepest exploration of a film known as, you're going to have to wait till after the break, Folks, stay tuned because coming up, we're going to talk about the night Michael Myers died.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
What's the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was.
Well, you've probably been living in a state of perpetual nostalgia because that intro was so damn cool. Now again, this is the newest film we have ever covered. It's barely a few years old. And the reason we don't cover films this new is because it's kind of hard to get the dirt out of some of these productions. And like I've said, people are still working in the industry. They don't want to say anything. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Whereas when we do a movie from 1981, most of the people are retired and they're willing to talk some shit. But lucky for us and lucky for you, we got a lot of people who are willing to talk a lot of shit about this movie. Now listen, we need to get into it. I love all the films in the Halloween franchise. And obviously I love some more than others. But I truly do believe that each installment has its positive merits. Not all of them are perfect, but I enjoy them. I watch them. I'll be honest with you. Can I be honest? Just real quick. I fucking hate Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which is also, probably stay tuned, we will be covering that at some point. But I hate that movie. I don't care what you say. It is the worst. Yes, I said it. Revenge of Michael Myers, the 5th film, is the worst in the entire franchise. So, just need to get that off my chest. More importantly, what are the most divisive entries in the Halloween franchise? Well, let's take a look. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Why? Because there's no Michael Myers. And there were people back then that didn't get it. They saw that movie and they said, what am I watching and where did Michael Myers go? Where's Laurie Strode? For a matter of fact, where's Ben Tramer? Jesus Christ, we barely even discussed that in these newer films. People, listen, it's a classic now. I love Season of the Witch. It's fantastic. But when I was a little kid, I had no idea. I was like, wait a second, so you're telling me they made a 3rd Halloween movie and there's no Michael Myers? I was pissed. But here's the thing too. I was like, I tried to get my mom to rent it for me and my dad, and they're like, you are not renting that. Every time the Halloween music comes on, you hide under the coffee table. And I'm just a dumb little fat kid, and I desperately want to see Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So what did I do? Well, kids, thank God for the local library, and thank God for literacy, because I read the official novelization of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and it was awesome. And man, you better believe, at the time I was ready to finally see it, I was pumped, because I had read that novel from front to back. All right, so, second movie that's very divisive in the series. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, or known in some circles as Halloween 666, the producer's cut versus the theatrical cut. Now look, I understand the producer's cut is added kind of more vibes of the original series. They changed the music, they toned down some of the edits, but I gotta tell you, and this is another hot take, the theatrical cut is where it's at. That crazy guitar soundtrack, all of the nutso violence that's in that movie, oh my God. I love that movie. Most people have problems with The Curse of Michael Myers. I love it. You got Paul Rudd in there, and it's the last movie that Donald Pleasance, as Dr. Loomis proper, is in the series. So, of course, it's a favorite. But what is the number one most divisive film between audiences for the Halloween franchise? Halloween Resurrection. The Busta Rhymes of it all. Trick or treat, motherfucker. Now, I think that's great. I think when he's doing the kung fu and shit, I like that. I like Busta Rhymes. Shout out to Busta Rhymes. We need to get him on the show. Row, row, like a dungeon dragon. In all seriousness, though, Halloween Resurrection is the first film. Well, okay, I gotta backtrack a little bit. In H2O, H2O has the best ending. And H2O is where the whole series should have ended. And spoiler alert, Laurie Strode cuts off Michael Myers' head with a fucking axe. And it is the most badass shit. When I saw it in theaters, people went nuts. People lost their fucking minds. The roof of the theater almost came off because it was so fitting. It was like this whole cycle of violence and trauma. She's an alcoholic. Michael Myers has been haunting her. And what does she do? She cuts his head off. People cheered. It was great. Now, in Halloween Resurrection, they backtrack all that bullshit. And I got to tell you, I get it. I understand why they did it. But I like Halloween Resurrection. It is the most 2000s movie of the whole series. There's all kinds of shit with the AOL dial-up, the kids dressed as Pulp Fiction characters. You got some titties in there, and I like some titties. That's nice. Look, I like Halloween Resurrection. Even Tyra Banks. I like the whole thing. It works for me. And I understand for some folks that might be a point of contention. But listen, all of these films, they pale in comparison to today's film. Because you're probably wondering, what is the film in question that we're covering today? It's Halloween Ends from 2022. When I first saw this film in theaters, I wasn't exactly too hot on it. In fact, I was kind of dejected by it and didn't really get it. I was kind of like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then, after a session of greening out on the couch, watching it on Peacock a second time, I loved it. How much did I love it? I went back to the theaters and I watched it again. So like in the course of like 7 days, I watched it in the theater, watched it on Peacock, and then came back to the theater. Yep, I cannot tell you a lie. I was one of those crazy people who had to see Halloween Ends in theaters twice. You're probably wondering why, right? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I really think it did like it had something to say. There was something there. And it was drawing me back to it. And I think that's what we're going to explore today. Now, I'd like to preface this episode with a quote from director David Gordon Green. I knew I wanted to be very romantic, and I knew I wanted to put my heart on my sleeve and make a movie about bad boys and motorcycles and leather jackets and that kind of thing. I get it. Listen, as a self-professed fan of Grease 2, believe me, old Uncle Jerry gets it. So you're probably wondering, how do we get to the whole development of this film? Well, we gotta rewind back. In June of 2018, Danny McBride confirmed that he and David Gordon Green had originally intended to pitch 2 Halloween films. And those 2 would be shot back to back. And then they decided against it. They were like, wait, let's see what the reaction of this first Halloween film, that's gonna come out in 2018, let's see how it does. So in September, producer Jason Blum said that we will do a sequel if this first movie performs. Now, of course, that first movie, Halloween 2018, it performed. It actually blew my mind. I was like, damn, this is a stone cold classic. I love Halloween 2018. It works for me. The soundtrack, chef's kiss, it's triumphant. Now, a month later, after the new Halloween film, its opening weekend, McBride confirmed that early development on a sequel had begun. Now, Green, McBride, and Jeff Fradley, this is one of the writing partners, had planned out a 2-film story arc, but they opted for a trilogy instead, after realizing they had more material than they originally thought. So as soon as Halloween was released in theaters, McBride and Green, they started devising the story for the 2 sequels alongside with other writers such as Scott Teems, Chris Bernier, and Paul Brad Logan for each individual sequel, with both sequels being written simultaneously by different writing teams, with Green and McBride mainly writing them and then bringing other writers to curate their crazy brain ideas and try and give focus to the story. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't care what anybody says. The first Halloween movie is a capital M movie. But if I had to be honest, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends should have been like an 8-episode series on TV. I think if they had given some of those ideas and story beats a little bit more room to breathe, I think we would have all been better off for it. Now, look, I'm just saying it. It is what it is. Now, in July 2019, Bloody Disgusting reported that a 3rd film was also in development, with Green returning as director. The site also claimed that the studio was considering releasing both films in October of 2020. Now, in July 2019, Universal Pictures revealed the titles and release dates of the 2 sequels. And let me tell you, they cut a trailer for this, and my head almost exploded. Because, man, they used that movie the shape stalks, the one track by John Carpenter. And they listen, this trailer, the house is on fire, and it says Halloween kills and Halloween ends. And oh my God, that trailer. Oh, listen, I don't know if we're able to play it, but if we do, if we can play that trailer that announced Halloween kills and Halloween ends, who would think people would get so pumped for a fucking announcement trailer? You're not even seeing footage from the movie. It's just music from the previous movie and a burning house. But you're like, hey, I'm there. You sold me. What did I learn? Well, one's called Halloween Kills and one's called Halloween Ends. That sounds badass. Of course I'm going to be there. Now, these two were set to be released in 2020 and 2021, respectively. Green was officially announced to direct both films and co-write the scripts with Danny McBride. Teams was confirmed as a co-writer for Halloween Kills, while Logan and Bernier were announced as co-writers of Halloween Ends. Now, Blum, Malik Akkad, and Bill Block were slated to produce the film, while John Carpenter, Curtis, Green, and McBride were attached as executive producers once again. That's the other thing. These movies brought back not only John Carpenter, but they brought him back on the soundtrack. And I gotta tell you, the soundtrack to all three films absolutely slaps. The first one, the 2018 one, is just like, oh my God. The second one's kind of eh. And Halloween Ends has some really cool stuff in it. Listen, they start workshopping ideas, and they're figuring out, well, what are we going to do? Because they've got to do Halloween Kills. So they finally get a first draft together in 2019. And then the final script was completed in 2021, pending Carpenter's approval. Now, I guess we're going to get to it, but we got to get to the COVID-19 pandemic of it all. Universal delayed the release dates of both Kills and Ends by a year. And let me tell you, brother, if you are a Halloween fan, ooh boy, was that a long year. I was so upset, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, that's it. What am I going to do? I was so excited for these two films. Now you're telling me that the fucking COVID pandemic has delayed my enjoyment of Michael Myers films in the theater? How dare you? How dare you? So how did they write this thing? Well, Green set out to make each sequel different. For the second film, he wanted an action picture. And for the finale, he wanted a love story. So he felt that by bringing all these cohesive pieces together, it would framework one big story. Green also intended to further explore what can make a person turn into a psychopath. I think that's interesting. Green conceived Corey in order to explore and get a perspective of how Michael Myers and Laurie Strode affected the town of Haddonfield. That's a big thing. Listen, we're going to get to the Corey of it all, but he serves a big purpose in this movie, and we will get there. Corey was devised as someone who was traumatized like Strode, that encounters an evil stalker like Myers and ends up infecting him into turning evil. And he lets that spread in his unchecked negative inner entities. I guess the whole point of this was that Michael Myers is some kind of evil entity, and through this power, he's kind of unleashed this evil throughout Haddonfield. And I think what he was trying to do was that everyone gets a character arc. Laurie has her own character arc, the granddaughter, everybody in the town essentially gets their goods. Even little Julian from the first movie. But the character arc that he was seeking for this film in particular was to that of Keith Gordon's Arnie Cunningham from Carpenter's Christine in 1983. That was kind of the inspiration for Corey Cunningham. Corey was overall created to mimic how neglected community members can unexpectedly turn evil. It's kind of like this thing. It's almost a transference that happens. And look, I wish they had gotten a little bit more supernatural, but look, we're going to get there at the end. I think with this series, it's pretty well cooked, but we'll get there. The role of Corey was inspired by real-life perpetrators of school shootings, which is fucking crazy, but Corey's inclusion allowed Green to orchestrate very different kills, because you'll notice in Halloween Ends, Corey's kills are hella violent. Like, Michael barely kills anybody in this movie, but Corey, holy smokes. His stuff is like straight out of a Friday the 13th movie, and I dig that. And I think some of those kills are some of the best in the series, but I digress. Corey wants to emulate Myers' violent acts, but more of kind of in a messy with his kills. You know what I'm saying? Corey's kills are more personal. Corey is pissed at the fucking town. He's sick of being a pariah. So he's not just going to stab people. He's going to torture them and do some pretty mean-spirited things to them. Especially that kill, the one with the DJ. Oh my God. They cut the tongue off. It's fantastic. Chef's kiss. No notes. Also, they cut out Darcy the mail girl, Diana Prince. Hello, Diana. They cut out her kill from this movie, and I'm very upset about that. And I wish there was some way that I could talk to Diana Prince about her scene being cut out. How could you leave that on the cutting room floor? She's a diva. She deserves better. She deserves to tell me on a one-to-one interview on an episode of The Offering exactly what went down during that process. My baby is too good to be on the cutting room floor. Don't you forget it. Now, Danny McBride loved Green's idea about focusing on Corey. And he considered the pitch to be a smart take because it would enable them to avoid a repetitive plot and explore something different. As long as that tied to the core themes of the Halloween franchise, they knew they were in good shape. John Carpenter, obviously, gave Green and McBride his approval for Corey. When he was informed, he was like, listen, this is going to be the one of the film's biggest protagonists. Listen, I congratulate you guys for not rehashing the same shit, the same plot line from every film. Carpenter was actually overjoyed because Carpenter himself had struggled to do the same thing when writing Halloween 2 in 81. How do you bring this series to the current day? How do you make it fresh? I mean, look, you could have gone the anthology route like they did with Halloween 3, but we're too far beyond that now. If you released a movie without Michael Myers in 2022, 2021, people would have lost their damn fool minds. Now, in October of 2021, Green revealed that Halloween Ends would take place 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills and would incorporate elements from the pandemic into the story. Now look, nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted to talk about the pandemic. It was still, it's like they say too soon. Yeah, it was too soon to put the fucking COVID pandemic. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, God bless her, goes out shooting her mouth off. We're going to explore the pandemic. We're going to do this and that. And people were like, really? We're going to do a COVID story with fucking Michael Myers? Now, of course, it's not like this whole pandemic hadn't divided the country. Now it was going to tear the very framework of the Halloween franchise. People were not feeling that. In an interview, Logan extinguished internet rumors that the film was supposed to take place on the same night of the previous installments. Curtis claimed the film would be shocking and would make people feel very angry. And Akkad even stated, ends would be more contained than kills. Now listen, obviously I'm talking about Malik Akkad. That's the son of, Mr. Akkad, who basically, he ran the whole franchise. Now, of course, when I'm saying Malik Akkad, that's Mustafa's son who now runs the franchise, and he's been doing a fantastic job. I mean, look, say what you will about the Blumhouse films. I think they're great. He's been shepherding it in a good way, especially now that we've announced this new video game, and the video game looks pretty cool. It's a whole year away, but Jesus, I'm excited. Now, Akkad did state that ends would be more contained than kills, while Green called it an intimate coming-of-age story, much like John Carpenter's Christine. Other cited influences on the film were Willard, the 1971 version, Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, 1981, great movie, and shockingly, My Bodyguard with Chris Makepeace. If you've ever seen it, that's a great movie. He was influenced by Blood Rage, 1987. If you're looking for a solid Thanksgiving slasher film, Blood Rage is the number one. Bad Taste, I mean, come on. Peter Jackson, it's a classic. And Fallen Angels, 1995. The latter two specifically inspiring the motorcycle bonding sequence between Allison and Corey Cunningham. Now, He kind of wanted to put in Wong Kar-wai's coolness, you know, all that stuff from his films, the Hong Kong cinema stuff, where, you know, it's just all of these lush colors and tones and everybody's sexy, and it's just, there's a sense of longing. It really works. You know, look, most of these films were generally movies that Green wasn't allowed to see as a child back in the 80s. And Green admitted he would go to a friend's house and they would rent them from the video store and they'd watch them. I mean, look, we all can relate to that. There was somebody's house that you would go to where it's like, you know, oh, we go over to Jim's house because Jim's mom, you know, she works or she's out getting plowed. Nobody gives a shit. So you can just watch Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, according to Green, several different endings were considered for this film. Green ultimately chose a more satisfactory, optimistic, and hopeful conclusion, as after Kills, it has that very bleak ending. So he was compensating for the traumatic events that Laurie Strode lived through in the film and its predecessors. The first planned darker ending had Laurie Strode committing suicide at the end of the film, and that is fucking insane. Listen, there's that fake out when you think Laurie shoots herself. I was like, no, they're not doing this. But they had planned to do that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. According to Green, it's the moment in which Laurie put a gun in her mouth and the one where he, Brad Logan, Bernier, and McBride, they all had to make the decision and starting to come up with different choose-your-own-adventure type alternatives. Because let's face it, nobody wants to see Laurie Strode kill herself. That's just fucking insane. Now, it gets even wackier because they had another darker ending that the writers considered where Corey Cunningham not only survives the film's events and gets away with his murders, but are you ready for this? So Corey and Allison hit the road, kind of like the 1994 film Natural Born Killers, kind of a Bonnie and Clyde thing where he starts killing people. She's like, hey, listen, I'm into this, man. We're in love. Let's fucking kill people. I hate this fucking town. And listen, if you're a teenager growing up in a small town, I get it. Listen, we've all been there, right? Other versions had Corey realizing the error of his ways and stepping back away from the evil. After having a taste of committing murder, or one of the endings was Corey becoming Michael Myers' successor. Basically, the one ending they shot, Corey puts on the Michael Myers mask, and that's it. And then he disappears, and you hear him breathing, just like in the first movie. And I gotta be honest with you. Can I be honest here for a minute? I would have liked that. I don't know if I like the Natural Born Killers ending. I definitely don't like Laurie Strode killing herself. That's just a bridge too fucking far for any fan. It would have been shocking. People would have fucking flipped out, but sometimes you can't do things just because they're shocking. When you're shepherding this gigantic franchise, you can't just, you know, shoot from the hip and make decisions like that. You get what I'm saying? You need to really think about the mythology and the fans, and are we going to really upset people? I mean, imagine you watch one of those new Star Wars movies, and Chewbacca's like, I fucking had it, and just blows his head off. I would have lost my mind. But you know what? I would have been like, this is a fucking good Star Wars movie. I kind of like where they're taking this. Chewbacca just shot himself. C-3PO's having a sex change. I like the cut of this jib. I'm into this. The Force Awakens in my pants, if you catch my drift. Now, in case the filmmakers wish to keep making more Halloween films after Green's departure from the series, they said, well, okay, look, if we renew this deal with Blumhouse, how the fuck are we going to keep this thing going? So there was a big internal argument about Halloween Ends and how it should end exactly. I know that's ridiculous, but that's exactly what happened. So John Carpenter doesn't give a shit. John Carpenter was like, listen, I like this Corey Cunningham thing, and you do whatever you want. I'm going to sit over here with my pile of money. I'm going to play NBA 2K26. I'm going to smoke a joint, and when you guys get it all hashed out, I'll get back to you. Because that's the God honest truth. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care what they do. As long as you write old Johnny a check, you fucking have Corey Cunningham do whatever he wants. So they decide, all right, listen, we're going to do 3 different endings and we're going to test them. And from all the endings they tested and scenes they removed from the film's finale, McBride felt that the one ultimately used was the most anticipated. So the ending that we see in the film, well, that's the one they went with. And obviously, some people liked it, some people hated it. It's divisive, but I don't think it would have been the train wreck had they gone with Laurie killing herself, or, Corey stepping into the shoes of Michael. And listen, I don't think that's a bad idea. I really don't. Because here's the deal, man. If we're not going to get whackety schmackety and be like Michael Myers is supernatural, he's like a dude. He's just like a regular dude, but he's super evil and he's just very determined to kill Laurie Strode. If we're not doing the supernatural thing, well, then somebody else has to become Michael Myers. He's not going to live forever. He's not some kind of immortal creature. But we'll get to that. We'll get back to that in a minute. Just hang on, all right? Just relax. So upon being cast around 2018 or 2019, aside from being unaware that he had been auditioning for a Halloween film, Rowan Campbell was initially unaware of his character's significance to the story because they kept that from him. He says, oh, well, I'm good. I guess I'm going to be in a Halloween movie. I'm going to be a babysitter. I'm probably just going to get killed, right? No, they didn't tell Rohan exactly what was going to happen with Corey Cunningham. And Green did that in order to help shape his performance. Campbell was asked by Green to watch horror films about outcasts. Upon meeting with Campbell, Green fell in love with what they could do to Corey. And it partly led him to change the original ending he had envisioned for the character. To not leave his fate open-ended. Now look, Campbell was one of the hundreds of actors who auditioned for Corey Cunningham. But Green and his assistant director chose him due to having a neutral, tough, but sensitive face and kind of a neutral handsomeness. That is the weirdest backhanded compliment. Are you hot? Are you handsome? Well, he's kind of handsome. And you know what? I'll take it. Considering what I've gotten from some of these ladies, he's kind of handsome. And look, man, dude, Rohan Campbell did his thing. I love his performance in this movie. He makes it. He sells it. It works. And I'm kind of pumped, low-key, to see him in Silent Night, Deadly Night. They're doing that remake. It just got screened at Fantastic Fest, and people loved it. I'm curious. You got me curious. Let me go to an early screening. Let me go see it. How come Uncle Jerry can't go see things? How come I don't get invited to things? What the fuck is going on? Look, Green, McBride, even old John Carpenter, they said, look, Rohan Campbell is the one that can accurately portray this motorcycle riding, kind of little bit of a bad boy, kind of an outsider. It's funny because all that romantic stuff, especially like the 80s leather jacket bad boy, all of that stuff feels like it's from like fucking Twin Peaks. But you know what? It works. And it totally works because I'm watching the film and I'm saying to myself, man, I'm really feeling this. They got the Boy Harsher song coming on and they're riding through Haddonfield and there's this love story developing. And look, I understand that I'm here. I understand I'm supposed to be watching Michael Myers kill people, but for the love of God, I'm kind of enjoying this film. Now, here was the other thing. Because Campbell knew exactly what Corey's trajectory were going to be, they kind of hid Rohan Campbell from the audience. And there was a lot of press leading up to Halloween Ends. And smartly, they left Campbell out of that because Green and Curtis warned Campbell about the potential backlash regarding the introduction of his character. They knew. Listen, this was not like they didn't know. They knew the whole Corey Cunningham thing was going to be controversial. All right? Look, we can pretend that it's not, but it is. Some people love him. Some people hate him. And I'm one of the people who loves him. And I think that Corey Cunningham really works. And I'm going to say it. He's my favorite character in Halloween Ends. There, I said it. Now, in an interview with Collider, Green hinted that co-writer Danny McBride had requested a cameo appearance in the film, potentially as a character who fights Michael Myers. And Green felt it would be too jarring and cheesy to have Danny appear because he's just so well known. Whether, it's The Righteous Gemstones or it's Eastbound and Down, people know who Danny McBride is, and it would be kind of just goofy. Because I hate to say it, Danny McBride is a fantastic actor, but the second he comes on screen, he's like Bill Murray. You're waiting for him to make you laugh. And look, I get it. We probably shouldn't do that in a Halloween movie. I mean, you complain about Busta Rhymes standing toe to toe with Michael Myers. Just you wait until Danny McBride, aka Kenny Powers, stands toe to toe with Michael Myers. That potentially could have been wonderful, but yeah. Were there too many cooks on the script? Yep, I think there were. Look, I'm going to say it. So you ready? Here we go. Written by Halloween Ends. Written by Paul Brad Logan, Chris Bernier, Danny McBride, David Gordon Green. That's 4 dudes, right? Now, allegedly, there were 2 separate drafts of this script. 2 separate scripts. And what happened was these 2 scripts were merged into Halloween Ends. Are you guys kind of getting where I'm going with this? There were 2 different versions of this movie. And they basically said, all right, we're going to Oreo them together. And I'm not going to lie, it does kind of feel like that. This was kind of like with Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, where his remake was supposed to end with Michael escaping from the asylum. And then the Weinsteins came to him and were like, listen, dude, we need to see some Halloween 1978 shit in here. So they went back, they did reshoots, and they kind of like shoehorned that stuff, the showdown with him and Laurie. Even though Zombie didn't want to do that, he wanted to do that for the second movie, but it's the fucking Weinsteins, and what do you expect? That was kind of the thing with this movie, where you got 2 different scripts. One is kind of like this romantic story, the other is the story of Laurie, and they said, hey, look, you know what? We'll put them together. Who is the coolest character in Halloween Ends? Who's Jerry's favorite character in Halloween Ends? The fat stepfather who owns the junkyard. Okay, he's a very sweet, obese man, and he gives Corey a motorcycle. And look, you met Corey's mother. There's some of that Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker shit where like there's like an incestuous thing. I think there's even, did I imagine this? Corey kisses his mom on the mouth. I think that's in the movie, I'm pretty sure. Now again, this big fat stepfather who owns the junkyard, he's like the most relatable dude in the movie. He's also like the nicest character in the movie, you know? And I relate to him. And not just because he's a fat man watching Hard Target while wearing headphones. No, I can relate to him. Honestly, if they were going to cast me in a Halloween film, I would be the fat stepfather or the fat uncle. And I'd be watching, you know, Hard Target or Sudden Death, some Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that Universal owns. I think that's exactly about the temperature for my casting in a Halloween film. Look, he's the coolest character, no doubt about it. Now, when they started filming this movie, obviously, it was originally planned they were going to film kills and ends back to back. But of course, due to the intense schedule, that was not going to happen. So in March of 2020, Jason Blum confirmed filming would take place during the summer. So, of course, we all know what happens next. Filming was quietly delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Production was expected to take place in 2021 in Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, in August of 2021, Courtney confirmed that filming would begin on January 10th, 2022. So basically, the movie's been delayed a whole year, right? They start shooting the movie in January of 2022, but in Savannah, Georgia, under the working title of Cave Dweller. All right? So now we're finally getting this movie made. Michael Simmons once again served as director of photography. And can I just say, a lot of people talk shit about this movie. They say it looks episodic, and I do feel that because of the whole TV comparison, that Kills and Ends should have been a TV thing. But I love his cinematography. There's a lot of rich character. The cinematographer, Michael Simmons, he explores a lot of things just through color tones. There's a lot happening here. This is a beautifully photographed movie. To be perfectly honest, it might be the most lush and pretty of all 3 of the films. So that's another reason that I love Halloween Ends. Jamie Lee started filming her scenes January 25th, and she was wrapped by February 22nd. She's barely a month on this thing. So you could tell, like, hey, we've got less Laurie in this movie. And look, she's kind of the narrator. She's not, she's not in it a lot. One thing that people said about David Gordon Green as far as being a director on this film, he allowed his actors to improvise. and he figured it was a good way to infuse humor within the film's tone. And the last showdown between the franchise's main characters was assembled and reassembled throughout filming. This is the showdown with Michael and Laurie. Now, it had been written very spectacularly, but since the film's first draft, forcing the stunt team to try new things occasionally, and creating several different continuity errors in the process, due to returning with new additions to the filming set and multiple times going through the actions. Now, additional scenes were shot in Sylvania, Georgia. So the whole thing is that if you ever felt that the ending, the whole standoff between Laurie and Allison and Michael is kind of janky, it's because it was assembled from like a whole different bunch of things. They basically decided, hey, let's try it all these different ways. And ultimately, some of it worked and some of it didn't. And they kind of just Frankensteined everything together. Now, on March 9th, 2022, they were done filming. So Blum says, listen, this movie is janky and doesn't work. So in June of 2022, 2 weeks of reshoots took place in Savannah, Georgia. However, these reshoots only lasted 4 days and were completed that same month. Now, as with most of his films, since his very first assembly, Green test screened ends to see if it engaged audiences or not. Does this film work? Does it play? So after several brutal test screenings, the original confrontation between Laurie and Michael, as well as the ending sequence, were completely discarded, and reshoots for new scenes took place 4 months ahead of the film's premiere. So, like I said, if you ever want to know why this movie's a little all over the place, now you know, all right? They did reshoots, they were like, we're fine. He tested the film, and they had to do reshoots again 4 months ahead of the film's premiere. Because the thing was, did the movie play? Yes, it did. Was it a good film in the Halloween franchise? Now we see the real problem. I love the Corey Cunningham stuff with Allison. I think it's great. But some of it just didn't work. One of my favorite scenes in Halloween Ends is the climactic procession sequence, where Michael Myers' corpse is paraded to all surviving Haddonfielders and disposed of inside of an industrial shredder. That was a late addition to the film, and that was shot around August 2022, with this film coming out in October. And I gotta tell you, I love that ending, because it's definitive. What happened to Myers? His head gets crushed like a grape. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10, no notes, perfect. With that being said, the music to that scene, it's like the procession track that Carpenter did. And that track hits hard. It's 2 minutes, but goddamn does it work. And I gotta tell you, when you see all the people who have survived all of this fucking killings and trauma, and they're walking in the street, and the sheriff says like the cops are like, this isn't how we do things, and he's like, tonight this is how we do things. And it really did feel like this whole movie was about the trauma of Haddonfield, how Michael Myers had fucked up Haddonfield. And we kind of get this very cathartic release with this funeral procession. It works. And I gotta tell you, I'm really happy that Green came up with it, because it really is the cherry on top of the whole film. And it worked. But with that being said, Green and his crew concluded they had wished for something more grand for the film's ending. But look, they barely had 3 months till it was going to come out, and that was what they went with. It was decided that the film's conclusion should be more modest and intimate, and with some more story points, as opposed to like a brawl with super noisy and aggressive ending of kills. They wanted something a little more quiet, a little more sedate, and Green was kind of wishing to return the series to its its more simplistic, dramatic roots, and I get it. That's fine. Hey, did you know that Diana Prince was in Halloween Ends? They cut out her death scene, but I would never cut out anything. Never. Especially if we could get Diana Prince. If we could get an interview out of her, I wouldn't cut you. I wouldn't, baby. You know that. Seriously. Have someone's people get her people. Talk to my people. My people being George and Pete. Just contact them. Write us a letter, a telegram, whatever. Get Diana Prince on this fucking show. What am I asking for? Anyway, In June of 2022, Blum confirmed that the film had been test screened internally the month prior. And that would be the last Halloween film from Blumhouse. That was it. For whatever reason, these movies made money. They made less and less money. But Malik Akkad was like, all right, we had a good run. Let's see what we got to do. As it stands, the rights to Michael Myers are over with Miramax. Miramax is essentially owned by Paramount now. The Weinsteins have no involvement. I'm sure they cash a check somewhere. The following month, John Carpenter sits down and watches Halloween Ends. And he's like, it's a departure from the previous entries, but he liked it. He thought it was cool. In August, Nick Castle finished his ADR for Michael Myers. I guess he was making grunts. I don't know what he was doing. What's crazy is they got Nick Castle to do the mocapping for this new Halloween game. You can go see that footage, and it's really cool. I'm glad to see Castle returning to the role. I think he's the first. He's the best. Some people dispute that. They like other Michael Myers, but they like George Wilbur or whoever you like as Myers. I prefer Nick Castle because he's just like a normal dude. And that walk, the look, just something about it. There's magic there. So good on Ilphonic for bringing back Nick Castle. Green stated that the film was being tweaked despite the film being locked. And when you say a picture's locked, it means we're done. It's ready to roll and it's coming out in theaters. But they kept going back to those editing bays. And now, according to cinematographer Michael Simmons, a practical version of the opening title sequence showing jack-o'-lanterns emerging from within each other wasn't initially created by production designer Richard Wright. That's right, that fantastic opening sequence. It was later replaced by a digital version. They did a practical version. They cut it out. The film's opening features blue titles. Kind of, it's like a reference to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I love those opening titles. It's like one of my favorite opening sequences in the franchise. I guess we got to get to the release, right? This movie did come out. People saw it. It's not just a fever dream in Jerry's head. Halloween Ends premiered at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles. It was a part of the Beyond Fest on October 11th, 2022. The premiere coincided with actress Jamie Lee Curtis's induction ceremony at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. As it should, she is a legend. They did that in front of the theater the following day, which is really cool and very classy. The film was released theatrically in the United States by Universal Pictures on October 14th, 2022. It opened in 3,900 theaters for a total theatrical run of approximately 3.8 weeks. In addition, the film started streaming simultaneously on paid tiers of Peacock for 60 days. Now, initially, it was set to be theatrically released on October 15th, 2021, but again, it was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I'm not going to lie. Do you remember the day and date stuff? Do you remember that? Like, I was the only idiot to go see Mortal Kombat in the theater when you could have just watched it on HBO Max. But you know old Jerry, I don't give a shit. I'm like a fucking spider monkey. I'll go to the theater. Am I going to catch something? Who knows? I might get herpes. I don't know what's going to happen, but you better believe that I'm going to be there in the theaters. Now, I'm not going to lie. With Halloween Kills, because I obviously have some issues, I watched it on Peacock and then saw it in theaters the next day. I love the Halloween franchise. Like, there's, obviously you guys, if you've never seen it, I have Michael Myers tattooed on my arm. My friend Jay did this. Shout out to Jay. And look, I love the franchise. It's probably one of my favorite things in the entire world. I love this shirt. It's a brand new shirt, $15 on Amazon. Look, I would have loved to have supported Fright Rags, Gutter Garbs, or Cavity Colors, but we wrote to them. I said, hey, we're doing an Offering Halloween special. And nobody wrote back to me. They're just like, you're small potatoes. How come you're not dead meat? I don't know, because I have originality and creativity and more of a personality, and I'm not just showing people getting killed, but I digress. Streaming numbers are bullshit. We got this report from Samba TV. I don't even know what Samba TV is. And the film Halloween Ends, it was viewed by 920,000 households in its first week on streaming on the Peacock platform, which was down from Halloween Kills' 1.7 million households. Now again, don't forget, when Halloween Kills premiered, we were really in the thick of the pandemic, and people weren't about to risk it for Michael Myers. They said, I'll pay my $10 or $15 for Peacock and I'll stay home and I won't get the virus and grandma can watch it and we can all eat treats. And it was kind of nice. There's something endearing about that because I think with the pandemic, we were all cooked. Everybody was cooked. Everybody wanted to go out to the theaters, but they didn't want to risk it. They didn't want to risk it for the biscuit. So they stayed home. And I get it. But it's the law of diminishing returns. Because some people will tell you, Halloween 2018, fantastic. Halloween Kills, not so much. Halloween Ends, what the fuck is that? But I'm not one of those people. I defend these movies. Because you know that I love the entire franchise. How did it do at the box office? It made $64 million in the United States and Canada. Probably around $41 million in other territories. The worldwide total was about $105 million. Hey, look, it's not that bad. At the end of the day, the film itself cost $33 million. However, they probably did spend $20 million on marketing. So it is what it is. You know, look, they made some bread. It's okay. They got the money from Peacock. Don't you cry for Jason Blumhouse. He's going to be all right. Guy's not going to be sleeping on the street anytime soon, all right? For some reason, I felt like it was less, though. It seems like this was like the lowest grossing out of the trilogy, out of the Halloween films directed by David Gordon Green. I might be remembering this wrong, but I feel like in some circles they were kind of like, oh, this is a flop. What did the critics think? Well, of course, my favorite critic, Roger Ebert, he's been long dead, so he didn't review it. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 40% rotten, just giving it an average rating at a 5.1 out of 10, which isn't bad. Look, 5.1 out of 10 isn't terrible, but the site's critics' consensus reads, Halloween Ends, for now anyway, with a frequently befuddling installment that's been stabbed, slashed, and beaten by a series of frustratingly missed opportunities. All right, I'm not going to disagree. It's not perfect. Now, Metacritic gave it a 47 out of 100, which is about on par. You know, it's a little less than what, Rotten Tomatoes gave it. CinemaScore gave it a C+ out of their A to F scale. This is a good one. K. Austin Collins of Rolling Stone gave a positive review in which he similarly deemed Halloween Ends the best out of Green's Halloween trilogy. And he noted its interestingly complex tangle of emotions and fears. He even was comparing it to Green's previously capably observed independent films. Look, I love David Gordon Green. I love his movies, love his TV shows, but I do think he's better served by television. That's just my opinion. The New York Times reviewed the film as being a movie that's less frantic and more intimate than its predecessor. One that unfolds with a mourning finality. All right, okay, I get it. Time Out also reviewed the film more positively than they did Kills, giving it a 3-star review. And Time Out was calling it a pleasant surprise. That's nice, right? A pleasant surprise. Well, look, critics are going to savage these movies. Now they screen these movies early for critics. Back in the old days, you used to have to go see, if you were a critic, they didn't have no screenings of these horror movies. You had to go Gen Pop. You had to go with all the dirty, freaky, horny people like me that watched these movies. The people that smelled like piss and were like, yeah, make a man. You had to go watch the movie with them. But now, critics get to see these movies early. It's not like the old days. You critics, you got it real good. I'm going to make sure I take care of you pricks. Oh, anyway, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to score the trilogy, all right? We needed to get to this. I didn't want to do it, but we're going to do it. Halloween 2018. It's the best film of the entire trilogy. It's powerful, it's moving, it's emotional, it hits all the right beats, and it moved me in ways that those other 2 sequels didn't, except for Ends. Ends, at the end of that movie, I'm not going to lie, I cried. I don't know why. But I also think that Halloween 2018 had a perfect ending. You could have ended the whole series right there. So what's my score for Halloween 2018? 8 out of 10. I do think it's the strongest of the films, but let's talk about Halloween Kills. A lot of people didn't like Halloween Kills. And this is the Halloween movie that my inner 12-year-old boy had always wanted. This is Michael Myers in full fucking mayhem mode. He's like Jason Voorhees. Have you ever wanted to see him take out a group of have you ever wanted to see Michael Myers take out a whole group of people Steven Seagal style? Well, he does it, and it's fucking awesome. And I'll tell you something, the finale to that film, woo! It's a banger, dude. I don't care what you say. And people like, dude, make fun of it, like, evil dies tonight. Okay. Did they say it too many times? Yeah. But did it take away anything from it for me? Nope. But with that being said, I give Halloween Kills a 7 out of 10. Now, where do I rate Halloween Ends? Well, Halloween Ends was poorly received. It's got a shift in focus away from Michael Myers, and that's kind of like sacrilege in a Halloween movie. You got Corey Cunningham. Not everybody liked Corey. I love Corey. Jerry loves Corey. Original name of the episode. It's got a very slow, methodical pacing and a lack of tension. Whatever. I don't care what anybody says. That opening scene with the kid in the house, it's fantastic. The title scene, all of it. It all works for me. The romance with Allison, it works. The nasty, grimy murders, so violent, so despicable and deplorable. I loved it. Some people will say that it's poorly written and that it had unbelievable supporting characters. It had less frequent kills, less memorable kills compared to previous films, and a dissatisfying conclusion that was kind of messy. All right, I get it. You're not wrong. But some critics felt the movie, they tried to tackle complex themes, but ultimately faltered in their execution, creating a rushed and illogical story that didn't deliver the satisfying finale that we wanted. And that's kind of sad, because I really love this film. And a lot of times with these big franchises, they want the characters, it's like an action figure. And they're like, do the thing, say the thing, Bart. They want these things to hit and to work a certain way. And I think ultimately the only way to move forward with some of these franchises is by doing different things. And Halloween Ends succeeds at that. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Well, we need to get to the Corey Cunningham of it all. You knew we were going to get here, so let's talk. Look, I love Corey. I think he's a fantastic character. Who hasn't felt like an outsider? Who hasn't felt like a social pariah in the town they grew up in? Now, where did they go wrong with Corey Cunningham? Well, let old Uncle Jerry tell you. Dig this. You introduce Corey in Halloween Kills. He's just a secondary player, but you introduce him, and you make sure that audiences know exactly who he is, they know his name and what the character's all about, because it would have made his turn in this movie that much more deeply felt by the audience. It would have been more powerful. The third film would have had more power. But Corey is not here to replace Michael, but to be a vessel of the evil of Michael Myers. And evil transcends people and even generations. But you cannot escape your fate. And Corey, unfortunately, once he turns over to that dark side, his fate is sealed. Well, I guess here we are, the Laurie Strode of it all. Look, you want a perfect movie with Laurie Strode? Some people like H2O. Some people like the original. Some people, they like Halloween 2018 because she goes full Sarah Connor in that movie. And it works for me. And I dig it. Listen, everybody's got their own favorite flavor. So you might dig Laurie in one movie, but you're not feeling it in this one, and that's okay, because you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed not to like a movie. Don't let anybody ever tell you, hey, that movie sucked. Fuck that movie. If you like it, that's you. Tell them to go fuck themselves. I will come to your bully's house. If they're bullying you about liking Halloween Ends, I will fuck somebody up. I will show up to their house. I will beat the shit out of them. Because I ain't got nothing else going on, because obviously I'm just sitting here trying to get an interview with Diana Prince, but that's just too much to fucking ask, isn't it? Sorry. Laurie will never truly have a happy ending. She's just not going to get there. she's going to have to live with the trauma. And it's fucking Michael Myers and murdered her daughter. She killed all these people. But maybe she can have a truly beautiful third act with Will in Japan. Maybe they can go watch the cherry blossoms bloom. And that's what I want for Laurie. I think that Laurie has had a very troubled first 2 acts of her life. So with that being said, I think that Halloween Ends, the bookend there is very sweet with her and Will, that we're going to move on and we're going to go do some different stuff and we're going to go be who we are without the specter of Michael Myers and the tragedy of Haddonfield. Perhaps she finds love and some normalcy. What do you want? Look, you can't have it all right? Look what they did in Terminator 3, The Rise of the Machines. They fucking killed Sarah Connor. They just, Linda Hamilton, she doesn't want to do it? Just fucking kill her. You don't do shit like that, especially with films, franchises that people are invested in. So yes, Laurie got a happy ending. I'm not mad at it. What did you want? You don't want her to find love? You don't want her to go to Japan? You want her to blow her fucking brains out? What's wrong with you? I hope that Will and her do get to see those cherry blossoms and maybe leave Haddonfield once and for all. Because Laurie deserves good things too. Don't we all? Was this film a fitting conclusion for Michael? I don't know. Can anything really be fitting for Michael Myers at this point? I mean, I was satisfied wholly with the funeral procession and that our main boogeyman is just chopped to pieces. I dig that. It's finality. I would not have called this film Halloween Ends. I would have called it simply Haddonfield. Halloween Ends doesn't take a deep look into the trauma that was caused. We kind of do see it peripherally. They explore it in this movie, but you could have done a TV series, 8 episodes, Haddonfield, and looked at different characters, almost like the film Magnolia, and said, okay, this is how it affected Jim. This is how it affected the neighbor. It's about the reverberations of what Myers has done to this town. And I think that could have been very interesting. We got to some of that, but here's the problem. Can I tell you the problem? The problem is that fucking Halloween, this series that David Gordon Green did, it is overstuffed with characters. There's too many characters. There's too many side plots. It needed to breathe. Man did Righteous Gemstones. It's fucking brilliant. That show was incredible. I was so sad to see it go, but I'm glad the way they left it off. David Gordon Green needed to make Haddonfield, the series, 8 episodes, get deep in it, each episode being an hour long. Because I'm going to tell you what, first movie, that's a movie. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, should have been a series. Just saying. What is the long-lasting effects of all this terror on the poor town of Haddonfield? Maybe someday we'll get to explore that, but I think that has passed. So you're sitting there, you're watching the Halloween special, and man, if you're a crazy Halloween fan like I am, listen. All right, can I tell you a little secret? If you've gotten this far into the episode, could you please write in the comments, all caps, evil dies tonight. Just all caps, evil dies tonight in the comments, because that would really warm my cold black Halloween heart. And you're an OG because you made it this far. And I respect that. You know what? I gotta pat myself. I'm getting all sweaty thinking about you writing evil dies tonight. Ooh, I'm horny. Okay, anyway, what's the conclusion? Halloween Ends is not the film that most fans really wanted. It decides to go off in some whackety-schmackety other directions. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. Unfortunately, when you have a huge fan base and a gigantic franchise like this, you really have to please a majority of the fans. Which I think this film didn't. A lot of people do not like this film. In fact, I think now, the further we get away from it, I even said this. I said this to a lot of my friends at the time. I was like, in 5-10 years, this is a fucking Stone Cold classic. And kids are going to see it, and they're going to like the romance, because everyone can relate to Allison and Corey in this film. We've all been there. We've all been them at one point. And the people who do like it, love it. Like, Some of my friends who don't even like the Halloween franchise, they're like, yo, this movie's weird. It's got some Twin Peaks vibes. It goes in some different directions. So in that respect, it either works for you or it doesn't. You could say like, oh, well, it's either, no, you love it or you hate it. It's a polarizing movie. It's divisive. And you know what? Films sometimes have to be that. Not everything can be The Force Awakens, which was just a retread of Star Wars. Look, it's all my favorites, all my favorite action figures. Oh, we got fucking Billy D. Williams. Oh, look at it. It doesn't always have to be like that, but that's the difference. Star Wars is playing to international audiences. It has to make $1 billion. Halloween, it's just got to make its money back. So after everything that occurred, especially with the backlash of Halloween Kills, this just wasn't the film that most fans wanted. In fact, I think Kills drove people away. Only the diehards were here. I think Halloween 2018 was able to get a lot of people. Oh, yeah, my dad told me about Halloween. Let's go see it. We're reinventing the franchise. We're doing something new. We had those podcasters that they killed early on. Smart decision, by the way. Fucking dude, Halloween 2018, it's got suspense, it's got chills. But only the diehards were here for Halloween Ends. And truth be told, the best way that this whole franchise could have ever concluded was with the original 1978 version. Let's face it. You know the end of 1978 Halloween when Michael gets up and he disappears into the night. That's the real trick of that movie. Because evil never dies. The boogeyman doesn't die, but rather vanishes into the night. And he's out there waiting, silently, leaving us and the survivors with the terrible feelings of anxiety and dread. Where is Michael? Where is he? Is he out there? Is he out there by the gate? Is he under my bed? Is he in the closet? You don't know. Because when he falls on the ground after Loomis shoots him, we just don't know. And it's ambiguous. And that which is ambiguous is scary. When you know everything about the monster, with the Rob Zombie film, and a lot of people love the zombie film, but I will tell you, once you know those things about him, you feel sorry for the monster. And you no longer respect the fear. Because you say, well, if I was Michael, had a white trash stripper mom, maybe I would have done the same thing. But the ambiguous nature of horror is what makes it scariest. What is the motive? Why did this happen? We don't know. And that's why Halloween 1978 is a classic. And that's why it's such an important film and a seminal work within not just horror, but in film. It's a brilliant, brilliant movie. And you can never top that ending. It's not about what happened. It's about what could happen. And that, my friends, is the scariest thing that will ever live in your imagination. Maybe the boogeyman comes back. Maybe even tonight. One last thing. Let me just do one last thing and I'll leave everybody alone. I love talking about the Halloween franchise, so fuck you. David Gordon Green is better served by episodic TV than films. The first installment is a capital M movie, but Kills and Ends should have been a limited series on Peacock. I'm going to say it again. I can't stop. I'm sorry. There's just too many goddamn characters, too many plots. That little black fat kid, Julian, I want more with him. I want a Julian show. So, I'm sorry, I just had to reinforce it. What's the future of Halloween? So here's the billion-dollar question people always ask me. Where can the Halloween franchise possibly go at this point? The film has been rebooted, retconned, remade, soft rebooted, and even relaunched in some cases. What's left? There's nothing left. Laurie's story is over. Jamie Lee Curtis is done. And let me tell you something. Jamie Lee Curtis, she still looks foxy. That is a good-looking woman. But even at this point, where do you go with it? If you read Taking Shape 2 by Dustin McNeil, I love those Taking Shape books. Shout out to Dustin McNeil. There were plans at one point to bring back Josh Hartnett as Laurie Strode's son, John Tate. Remember in HBO? Remember in H2O, John Tate? Well, obviously at this point, he's an adult and he's a writer. He would have starred in an Elseworld-style tale where he journeys through the Michael Myers multiverse. He meets some kind of like mysterious evil deity that grants him the ability to walk into the shadow world and go to other timelines. So he can like skip through these multiple universes. I know, enough with the multiverses. But this was a new thing. This is going back 15, 20 years ago. Now, ultimately, why would they have done this sequel? It's to fix the continuity. You could bring all the timelines together and create one singular story in continuity. They were going to bring back Danielle Harris. This was before Rob Zombie brought her in for the remake films. It would have reset the entire various Halloween timelines into one singular vision. I mean, this almost happened. Like, this movie almost got made. And this was their solution to fix everything. I think it would have been way too weird. Maybe it would have been ahead of its time. And I don't know how audiences would have reacted to this version of the film. It would have been interesting, yeah. It's definitely a case of where a sequel proposition was ahead of the curve with the whole multiverse thing. But we're so far beyond that now. Like, because we're so many more movies in, there's no fixing this gigantic franchise at this point. You can't. You can't fix it. It is what it is. It exists and it lives and it breathes. Rob Zombie's movies started the whole thing over with his timeline. He was supposed to even make a third movie. Unlike David Gordon Green, he didn't get to finish his trilogy, which would have concluded with a 3D version taking place in an asylum. There was this cool thing with some kind of like harvest parade and a carnival. Very cool stuff. The 3D sounded cool. I totally would have been into it. I don't think there's any fixing this franchise at this point. Halloween is what it is, and we have to accept that, warts and all. All right? Even the parts that we don't like, even the parts we think are stupid, like Trick or Treat Motherfucker, it's fine. All right. You know, just accept it. It is what it is, and this is a case where that actually pays off. You know what I'm saying? Just leave it alone. Now, should we get to Jerry's crackpot theories? Well, there's been rumblings of a Halloween television show. I guess we're going to see, like A24 has the Crystal Lake TV show that they're shooting for Peacock. And I mean, if that does well, they could finally pull the trigger on a Haddonfield show. But that's not what old Jerry thinks they're going to do. Do you want to know what I think they're going to do if they do a Michael Myers Halloween TV show? Here's my theory. And you're going to give me a lot of money when I'm done. Or somebody's going to steal this idea and they're going to go do it. I want my check now. My theory is that they're going to do a Silver Shamrock TV show. It will show how the whole company is built, and it'll have a younger version of Connell Cochran coming to Santa Mira, and it'll show how they build the company. However, you can't have a Halloween show that's just about Silver Shamrock without Michael Myers. So somehow what they'll do is they'll retcon it and bring those timelines together, and Silver Shamrock will essentially be the impetus for Michael Myers. They might even bring back some of that stuff with the Thorn curse, which I love that shit. The Curse of Thorn in Curse of Michael Myers, love that shit. I love all the extra stuff in the producer's cut. Maybe you could even mash up some of this stuff into the storyline to make it match. I don't know. At this point, it's not the worst idea. Because again, what's left with this franchise? Is there anywhere really to go? Are we just going to finally send Michael Myers into space? I mean, that almost happened. I think John Carpenter said it jokingly. He was probably really stoned, but I wouldn't put it past him. He still gets a check. He doesn't give a shit what you do. It doesn't matter. But ultimately, that is my conclusion. This franchise is cooked. There's nowhere to go with it. Do you know what I would really do? Put it away. Put it on the bookshelf. Let it breathe. Let it die. And don't forget, in a few years, the 50th anniversary of Halloween is coming up. So you know, like next year we're getting a video game. But don't be surprised. Couple of years, 2028, we finally pull the trigger on it and say, hey, look, we're gonna do a big 50th anniversary thing. And we're gonna do a new Halloween. You know what my pitch was? My pitch for a new Halloween was Miguel Myers, right? Hear me out on this. So you put this motherfucker, you take him out of the suburbs of Haddonfield. You put this shit in the barrio. But I wouldn't put it past them to do that. That's their brilliant recasting. We're going to do Halloween in Espanol. Because look, What the fuck else can you do with this franchise? Let's be honest. Look, I've probably gotten a little bit unhinged here, so we're going to get to my favorite part of the show, unhinged reviews. And I got to tell you, the reviews for this film are all over the place. And again, as I've said, it's polarizing. People either love it, they hate it, but let's get to some of the people that hated it. This review comes from Alan J. 1 out of 5 star. 1 out of 5 stars. Title of the review, movie sucked. No, Alan, tell us how you really feel about the movie. All right, you ready for this? Because this is wild. Terrible way to wrap up a classic. That's it. That's the whole review. He didn't like the way you wrapped it up. There's nothing you can do. You don't like this ending? Watch H2O. She cuts his fucking head off. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. There's no perfect ending because your perfect ending, my perfect ending, producer Pete's perfect ending, and George's perfect ending are fucking 4 different things. Sorry, folks. We're far beyond any kind of semblance of doing something that's going to make everybody happy. Just let it go. All right, let's go to another one. This one comes from Frankie Mama Baby. Wow. Okay. Another one that's 1 out of 5 stars. All caps. Here's the headline title. What were they thinking? I don't know. They were thinking they'd probably make some more fucking money. That's what they were thinking. Here's the review. I forgot a couple of times that I was watching a Halloween movie. It was an Allison and Corey show at best. You seldom see Michael. And when you do see him, he's a shadow of his former self. No stalking, no great Michael kills. They need to make another one, and this one didn't exist. Just saying. So, what you're saying now is we're gonna make no really Halloween Ends, or no really Halloween's, whatever the goofy title is, and we just pretend Allison wakes up, oh my God, Halloween Ends was all a dream. All right. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's what we're going to do. This one's crazy. Now, this is a good review. This is from Now Williams, who gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Title, About Time. This is the ending true fans deserved. Although we can never forget or forgive Season of the Witch or H2O. How dare you besmirch either of those films? I fucking hate H2O, mainly because I hate the mask. I also hate that they threw out Stan Winston's design. I also hate that they did CGI. But I do love that they had Creed in the soundtrack. So there is that. Nonetheless, the ending made my day as a fan for life. I don't want to see a single remake or mystic attempt at bringing them back. Leave this masterpiece where it is with dignity. It's a cult series classic. He's not wrong. Look, he's not wrong. This works. It's a little strange. It's not for everybody, but leave this masterpiece where it is with dignity. I can respect that. Here's another 5-star review. Aaron Legandi, 5 out of 5 stars. These guys love it. The other guys hate it. I think critics don't know slasher movies. This was cool. You're right. Most critics don't know slasher movies. But that's the difference between Uncle Jerry and movie critics. I can watch Federico Fellini. I can watch Lucio Fulci. And I can have them on the same spectrum. Highbrow, lowbrow, if I'm entertained, it doesn't matter. Fuck you, it's a good movie. How about that? How about that? How about Catch Me Outside? Okay, sorry, let's get to this kid review. Assuming he's a kid. I don't want to give the plot away, but it's kind of like how a small town never forgives you for anything you do. He's right. No, they have a long memory, and they will not let go of that shit. Even if it was an accident. Damn, this dude suffered some trauma. He definitely, he shit his pants or something during a fucking, a commencement speech, and the whole town never forgot. Here's a review that's in the middle. Squeaky Mouse. I love the fucking people. Squeaky Mouse. 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the title. The question is, did she ever get her exhaust fixed? This is a good point. I'm not going to lie. After watching this, That was and still is the question on my mind. And let me explain this. Let me just explain this. That was the whole review. Allison Nelson needs her car's exhaust fixed. During her first meeting, she tells Corey Cunningham that her car has been making a rattling noise. Now, obviously, Corey works in a mechanic shop. So he correctly identifies that her exhaust system clamp has come loose. That's it. He fixed the exhaust. So I just want to say, like, you wanted to know, they fixed the exhaust in that movie. So it was the clamp. All right. So anybody who can't sleep tonight thinking about how Allison didn't get her exhaust fixed, they fixed it. Corey figured it out. All right. It's good with cars. Also good with killing people. This one is from Achilles. Achilles? I can't even say his name. 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the title. Was Halloween Ends good? Body of the review? I don't remember. I appreciate that. That's somebody like me who like greened out on the couch. They took too many bong hits and they're just like, wait, what? You wake up, you've got drool on your face, and you're like, it's over? Oh shit. And you realize it's 3 a.m. and you got work in the morning. Okay. This last review, sorry guys, I found some good ones. This one's from JC, hopefully not Jesus Christ. 2 out of 5 stars. Did I purchase this? I would like to watch it again. This guy definitely fucking greened out on the couch. Can't seem to find where this purchase is. Same as the movie, not sure if I even saw it. Not that good. So the guy can't find his purchase. The guy can't find his purchase. He's not sure if he's seen the movie, but what he will tell you is it's not that good. I like this guy. This guy, JC, listen, if it's Jesus Christ, please forgive me and give Halloween Ends another watch. Maybe you'll remember it on the second viewing. That's it, kids. I'd like to tell you that I have some kind of grand design or that I've figured out the mystery of why this film works or doesn't work. I haven't, but I enjoy it. I am a father with all these children, all the children being the 1981 Halloween, where Michael's, he's in the hospital. We got Season of Witch with the Mask Factory and the Silver Shamrock people. We got Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. I love them all, except for 5. 5 sucks dick. Listen, this Halloween, as you're probably watching this, Compass International has put the original OG Halloween, the 1978 version. If you've never seen that on the big screen, you're not a real Halloween fan, so you get your ass to the theater and watch the OG on the big screen, superbly shot by our buddy Dean Cundy. And by the way, that cinematographer, Dean Cundy, that is his 2019 remaster. He's done some tweaking. So if you can try to catch that on the big screen, I highly recommend you do. They're bringing out Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This is coming to like over 500-600 movie theaters. I hope that you've watched it. I hope that you watched them in theaters, but they are bringing back 5 because I think they also own 5. And 5 is just terrible. It's not a good movie. That's... If there's one takeaway from this, it's that I do not like The Revenge of Michael Myers. That's it. I'm sorry. What do you want from me? It's a terrible movie. And that's my opinion, and I'm allowed to have an opinion. And you have an opinion. And if you want, I'm on social media. I'm on all these different platforms. You want TikTok, you want YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Old Jerry's on all. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere, man. It's like Johnny Cash said, I've been everywhere, man. But I'm out there. You want to get in touch with me? You got some hot takes? Do you have a cousin who knows Diana Prince? Do you know her people? Get her in touch. Get Joe Bob in touch. Joe Bob's like one of my fucking heroes. The guy, he shoots the show in Jersey. I'm in New York. Joe Bob, what are we doing? Like we're miles apart, but yet together. To get so close, baby. So you're in Jersey, I'm here. It's good. We'll make it happen. All right, folks. I hope you've had a happy Halloween. I hope you've enjoyed the ramblings of a wacko Halloween fan, which I am. I will always love this franchise. I don't give a shit. I'm going to play the video game. I'm going to buy the merch. I'm going to buy some Funko Pops. You know why? Because I grew up with Michael Myers. And I adore everything in this franchise, whether it sucks or not. I'm an idiot. I'm going to buy it. It's a sweet spot. And I know all of you have a movie or a movie series that's like that. And you can tell me all about it. Write to me. I'm on Instagram. We got a Facebook. We got all this shit. We're on X, The Offering with Jerry Horror. The Offering with JH, excuse me. Producer Pete will be very mad that I screwed that up. Hi, Pete. It's time for me to pack it on up and go get some rest, because Jesus Christ, my head hurts from talking about Halloween Ends. So with that being said, this has been The Offering. I'm Jerry Horror. Mostly horror, always genre.